Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Four Lads Weekend Podcast. It's myself and Kenny here, live. Hope everyone is well. Good evening. It's been a nice day. Managed to catch a wee bit of the sun, walking the dog and things. Kenny, how's your day been? I know you've been busy at work.
Yeah,
I've had a wee day off today, so I can't complain.
lucky for some. Aye, just busy, buddy. Yeah, non-stop. Got in about 40 minutes ago and on here. Looking forward to it, though.
Yeah, we always do. We enjoy speaking away. I was just bringing up the agenda. I've got a few notes to kind of discuss. Nice to see so many people on already. And in the comments, we'll get as many of your comments up as possible. Nice to see so many members on as well. Before we get started, just a thanks as usual to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyde Joinery, Afro Industrial Solutions, and CSD Air Conditioning. Thanks to them, they help us do what we do, so we really appreciate it. A huge thanks to all our members. I'll bring up your member names along the bottom of the screen. Don't worry if you've just joined and you don't see your name. That's one of the casualties of Andrew currently being ill. We'll get that updated as soon as possible for you. So we might be about 20 or so shy on who's actually there. So apologies, but we'll get that updated as soon as possible. That's for sure. Any members get any questions, things, get them in. We'll keep them for the end, and we'll get that as well. So blue bells are blue. Hiya, mate. That fence still comfy from this morning. Listen, that's an art to answer a question like I answered that this morning, so I quite liked it. But we'll discuss the manager, and we'll maybe get
You
more
didn't
of it.
answer that question at all. I heard you this morning.
Skillfully done, Kenny. You've got to be diplomatic. That's for sure. Question here. Hi guys, just wondering how I can become a member. Keen to see the Naismith interview for starters. Yep, Stephen Naismith interview is available for members. To become a member, just simply go onto your, I think it needs to be a computer or a laptop, and join on the YouTube page where it says subscribe. You can subscribe doing that way. Starts at 99 pence a month. We really appreciate your support. Right, Kenny, let's discuss. And there's David Allen, done it straight away. Thank you, David, for your support. We really appreciate that. There's a few things for members to watch. There's one with Bob Malcolm. Had to edit that one. There's a couple of things in there that I had to edit. Bob's a great lad. And one with Stephen Smith as well, with Smithy talking about that season. Stephen A. Smith interview as well. We've released a Helicopter Sunday documentary. It's 20th anniversary today. We'll remember and talk about that, Kenny, as well before we go. And yeah, do you know what I will say before we kind of go about Bob and about Stephen and things like that? I often offer the guys like a bottle of wine or something nice, just to say thank you for their media duties. Bob laughed in my face. Stevie Smith laughed in my face. Stephen A. Smith. None of them would take anything. More than happy to talk to us. I know that maybe is expected a wee bit, but I thought it was a nice touch of the boys. Certainly, Bob actually told me to, in no uncertain terms, GTF. He says, "You buy me a pint next time you see me." But I love Bob. Bob's an actual great guy. So really appreciate that. So for the members, go and check them out. We really try our best to kind of give a wee bit of extra stuff. But Kenny, let's move on. Wanted to discuss, obviously, it's been a couple of days since we've spoken. Players released. I think that was announced the other day. Hadji, Lawrence, and Balogun to be expected. Loans of Casaverio, Czerny, and Fernandez as well, just in case you'd forgotten about him. What's your immediate thoughts on those released, Hadji, Lawrence, and Balogun? Did any of them come as a surprise?
Not for me, mate. No. I was absolutely gutted when Leon Balogun was released the first time. Thought he deserved at least another year back then. But I'll be honest and say that it's a sad situation that we find ourselves in, that he was probably our best centre half last year, and at 36, 37, and not able to play 2 games a week, being as injury prone. I think his body had just packed in a little bit at this level. This is a physical league, Stevie, as you know, and I think it just caught up with him a little bit. I don't know what you feel, but I thought towards the second half of the season, I thought you could really notice he'd lost a little bit of pace that had bailed him out a number of times if he was slightly out of position or bailing other players out. So not surprised, where I know that some people were, and I can understand people suggesting perhaps if he was your 4th or 5th choice for next season, you wouldn't have an issue with that. Neither would I, but I'm not surprised that the club's released him. Hadji, I'm not surprised at all. I think the carry on at the start of the season was quite embarrassing for everybody at the club, and I felt for the kid. But I don't think he's done enough over the last 2 or 3 seasons to merit any kind of contract with Rangers now. And you thank him for your efforts. Tom Lawrence, I was really excited about when he first got here, Stevie. Genuinely, I thought I had watched a lot of them because I watched a huge amount of the Championship for a long time. I haven't seen quite so much of it the last year or so, but when he was playing with Derby, I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and I thought he'd be great for us. And that injury just put a stop on that, and he's just been plagued by injuries. And what do you say? Just no surprise at all that they didn't keep him on either. So, in terms of the 3 that have been released or with the contract, coming to an end, I'm not surprised in any way, shape, or form. And we'll come to talk about the loans as well, obviously. But with those 3, yeah, thanks for your services and wish them all the best, mate. But that's where I would be with it.
Well, a couple of things to say. I'm really disappointed that Lyall Balogun, there was a wee line in it that I felt was quite bad. That when he spoke about, we spoke about this already kind of the other day, that he wasn't allowed to say a proper farewell, which I think is upsetting. If we're honest, and this may cause some division, it was the right time for all 3 of them to go. Yanis Hadji is not consistent enough, and quite possibly I would have flourished in a better setup and things. I understand that. However, is on a really, really high wage. His contract extension, if it had been extended because we had a year option, would have been at his top level, and that would have took him to one of the highest paid at the club, and we're just not in a situation to do that. And I don't think Yanis, without being disrespectful to him, I don't think Yanis has hit the heights really for us to justify that consistently. Lyall Balogun, terrific professional, really likeable guy. We spoke about that obviously before, and I was disappointed that he was away on a kind of personal level as being somebody that I really liked and liked dealing with. But on a club level, I think it's the correct thing to do. As for Tom Lawrence, definitely the right thing to do. Never fit on a big wage, never fit. Great guy, really nice guy to deal with. I liked that Tom Lawrence could shoot, which I liked about him. He could hit a shot. So I certainly, a fit Tom Lawrence in and amongst it might have been a different player for us, which is a shame. But I've no issues with any of them leaving. The loan players, Casavuso and Czerny, I'd never say no to seeing them again. Casavuso, I think, is a good player. Again, injuries. But for the kind of money that we were allegedly had the clause and things on, it might have been worthwhile. Czerny, we never had a clause. That was reported, knocked it down. It was never there. I think the fact that he's went back kind of proves that. And Fernandez was just a complete faux pas from the really start. So, yeah, I'm just reading. Jim, thank you so much for your donation to the channel. We really appreciate that. We'll get that question straight up. Lads, do you agree with Bomber? Yes or no? No sitting on the fence, pish. Me sitting on the fence? That's a shocking thing to say. What did we're talking about Bomber And that would have been his comments on Saturday with being corrupt and the league being corrupt, etc. Kenny, I'll let you answer this.
Thanks very much. No, I don't know if I agree that it's corrupt. But I'll add to that and say, do I believe that there's a bias? Do I believe there's perhaps an unconscious bias? Do I believe that it's easier to give a decision against Rangers than it is to give it for them? Absolutely. I've seen somewhere that I believe that, I think it was last season, we had 11 penalties in the league, Stevie, and 9 of them had to go to VAR before we got them. Now, that tells you that they're not giving you things. So, do I believe that there's a conspiracy against us? No, but do I believe it's definitely easier to not give us something? Yes. I could go on and on and on about this, Stevie. I could, and if I was to come out and say exactly how I feel, we might not have me back on. But it's one of those kind of feelings that I feel you're always kind of suppressing exactly how you want, what you want to say with stuff like this, because I don't want to get anybody into bother, but I do genuinely believe that all is not quite right. Put it that way.
I would say, Jim, in answer to your question, there's a definite incompetence, and with certain officials, there's a desire not to treat Rangers on the same level as everybody else. And before I get told that I'm being, a certain way of behaving, I would point everybody to the League Cup final when they were so quick to tell Rangers it wasn't a penalty when it clearly was. So there's been too many decisions that I think for Rangers have been questionable. I'll point to a really simple one last week. Dundee United at home. Diamandi gets ripped down. I'm up the other end on the gantry and I can quite clearly see it. The referee's 10, 15 yards away and he doesn't give it and relies on VAR. He has one look at VAR for about 3 seconds and then gives a penalty. I think stuff like that becomes really questionable. So, Jim, listen, thank you for the donation to the channel. We really appreciate that. Kenny, going back to what we're talking about, spoke to Rangers today. I asked them for an updated list on youths that have been released, and I wasn't able to get it. I wasn't able to get official confirmation of anyone. So I'll tell you what has been reported in the press so far. Well, not even in the press, some press, but Rangers youth account on X and on Instagram and stuff, run by a guy called Willie Irwin, who is a fantastic gentleman. He's updated us. He's really close to the youths, and he knows a lot of information. He's reported that Cole McKinnon, Christian Webster, Archie Stevens, Greg Allen, Jay Hogarth, and Leighton Grant have all been released so far. Now, that is going to run, I think, with the amount of youth that will get released, but that's a fair chunk as well. Cole McKinnon, maybe not a surprise, slightly older, never really been able to kick on, which is a shame because there was a time when he came on in Benfica and things that I thought might have been the chance for him. Christian Webster, Andy Webster, so again, that surprises me. He's been really good in the B games. I've seen him this season. Archie Stevens played for England under 17s, hasn't really kicked on, didn't really get a good loan move at Dunfermline. And then the others, Greg Allen, Jay Hogarth, Leighton Grant, I'm not really familiar with, so I can't really comment on the boys too much. I've seen some B games. The B games I've seen, it was Mason Munning goals and things, so I can't say that I've seen Jay. So, yeah, that's a fair chunk, and I think there'll be more to come, Kenny. It wouldn't be surprised me if the youths go into kind of double figures, especially now that the B team is being changed and remodelled as an 18s, 19s kind of pathway. I think you might see the older boys kind of leaving if Rangers are, they'll need to make some decisions. But I expect, out of that list, these boys will go on and have a good football career somewhere, but it won't be at Rangers. Is there any names again at that level that surprise you?
The young boy Archie Stevens has surprised me because they have high hope, or they had high hopes for him. I know that. Cole McKinnon doesn't really surprise me. Hogarth, not really. Listen, I think that with Kevin Fairwell coming in, I think you're going to find a complete restructuring of the youth side of things. And I know we're already doing that with the B team being disbanded, and it's going to be the under 18s that they're going to prioritise, and they're going to play, or beg your pardon, they're going to train with the first team much more than previously. Listen, I've been saying this for a long time. I've mentioned it. Correct, Jim. I've been saying this for a long time about Rangers, and one of the ways that we have went badly wrong over the last 25 years or so is that when I was a younger boy, a younger man, the youth side would always have a smattering or a sprinkling of first, players getting in and about the first team, and they would just come in, play a few games. Guys like David Hagan and things like this, if you remember them, boys like this that would come in and back out again. Gary McSwegan was another one that you could go and make a right few quid on, and you'd make £200,000-300,000 and all these kids because they were getting a pathway to the first team. They could come in, we were successful, and you could sell them on. We have not been able to do that for a quarter of a century or more, mate, and it's a real worry to me that it's never been addressed. And I'm hoping with the new owners, with Kevin Thelwell coming in, and the rumours of, as you've said yourself, the rumours of get some guys from Everton coming up to steer the youth side of things. I'm hoping that we start to address that, and we start to see much, much more talent coming through and into our own first team squad. And if you can do that, and they're not ultimately going to be good enough, but they've got that first team experience, Stevie, you will make profit on these kids. And I know it's much. This is me simplifying it much too far, but I do understand now that if you're a 16-year-old kid and you're showing that the kind of promise that some of these boys are showing, then you've got your Chelsea's, like your Billy Gilmour is a prime example where you can't keep a boy like that. He's too good. You just can't compete with clubs in the Premier League. So it's how we go about it, Stevie, that I'm actually quite interested in, because I do feel that there is change required at that level. And I wish all the boys that have been named there and any of the rest that are going to end up being released, I wish them every success in their career away from Ibrox. I really do. But I would expect, same as yourself, I would expect an awful lot of boys to go in the summer and a complete restructuring of that side of the football department.
Yeah, I would. Sure, I'll answer your question in 1 second. Thanks again to Jim for another £10 donation, just to say I'll take that as a yes, lads. Sometimes you can read in between the lines of what people are saying, Jim. So, yeah, you're not far away. Stuart McPhee, is there any truth regarding Raith Rovers and Rangers with putting players on loan to them to bring them on and provide minutes? Is there truth to it? Officially, there's been no official word on that. I believe Rangers are exploring various options to get this sort of agreement would allow 5 players to go to one team. So, yeah, I think that's an interesting prospect. It's one we'll need to keep an eye on, Stuart. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I'll try and get a proper answer to that. I was trying to word how I word that. Officially, I've not been able to get a proper answer. Officially, Rangers will say that they are looking at things. So, yeah, that's really it. But we'll move on a wee bit. Just a quick thanks to Jim again for his donations to the channel. That's really helpful. Really thankful of that. 3 or 4 new members already, which we really appreciate. My very good pal Gary Howden-Ass. I've tried to become a member a couple of times, pal, but not seeing on the YouTube app to do it. I don't think you can do it on the app. I don't think you can do it on your phone or a iPad. I think you have to do it on a laptop or an actual computer to be able to subscribe and become a member. So that's how you do it. And if you don't, folks, we're rapidly closing in on 7,000 subs on YouTube, which is amazing for our podcast, considering the length of time we went. If you haven't subscribed and you would like to, it's free. It really helps us grow the pod. So if you could do that, that would be wonderful. Right, let's talk about Lyall Cameron, Kenny. Something that's not well known to people or not known at all. Lyall Cameron was at the training ground today, getting his photos done in his new Rangers strip, doing all his media things. So yeah, that's a real positive. I'm pretty sure Rangers will release that imminently, perhaps tonight or even tomorrow. But he's been there. He'll do that, and then he'll drift off to holidays, and he'll be back with the squad on the 23rd when they come back. So positive news that's happened, and I look forward to hearing what he's got to say. I think he might surprise some people. So before I get you to answer that, Kenny, huge thanks to Haggis Killer, who's gifted 5 Four Lads to the Dream memberships. If you want one, please grab them. They're at the top of the chat. Just click on it to get one. Gary, if you do that, mate, grab one and get it now, and that'll sort you out. Kenny, Lyall Cameron, 23 goal involvements this season. I think 14 goals and 9 assists, which is incredible for Dundee. That might be wrong. I would need to double check, but I'm sure that's when I last looked, that's what it was. I think that's a really smart move, and I think he could be a promising signing. I think he might surprise a few people. Kenny, I'm not. We haven't had anybody like Arfield since he left. It's been a goal threat from midfield. I don't think Arfield used to run beyond. Is Cameron the type of player that could do that?
Very possible. And listen, Stevie, we need more good young Scottish players in our squad. In our squad, and that I'm with you. Actually, I think Lyall Cameron will surprise a lot of people at Ibrox. I think he's a right good player, and if nothing else, mate, he will get plenty of game time. That's the one thing I would say. Whether he's going to come in and nail down a first team start every single week, I genuinely don't know. It depends how he takes a step up and progresses. But I am genuinely excited about watching him, because anytime I've seen Dundee, they've been a good watch. I'm really surprised that they get rid of their manager the other day. That was kind of surprising me, because I'm not really sure what they were expecting. But he had an exciting team there that middle to front would score an awful lot of goals. And I know defensively they weren't great, but Cameron was a vital part of that team. And if you look at the way he plays, I can see why you're saying about Scotty Arfield, because he is quite similar. He takes those runs from deep. Scored a great goal at the weekend. Really fine finish. Nice move, nice finish. And I'm really excited about him. And his return, pardon me, since the split was absolutely phenomenal. And he's probably been the one key player that's kept him up, actually, and kept him away from the playoffs. And I can't wait. When we initially signed him on the pre-contract in January, I was really quite excited about him. And you know yourself, when we've had a season, or a particular whole season, but the second half of the season, you kind of forget about these things, and then the season ends, and all of a sudden, as you say, there he is, the boys down at the training centre and doing his media shoot and stuff like that. And I can't wait to see what he's got to say myself. But I am genuinely really excited to see the boy at the start of the season, because, as I say, more than anything else, depending on who we bring in, I'll be absolutely sure that he'll get lots of game time, Stevie. I really do think that, because he's a talented, quite technical, player with an eye for goal, and he creates plenty. So, exciting player to be getting in your squad, particularly with him being Scottish, with the European quota and stuff like that. So, can't wait for it. Can't hear you, Stevie.
Forgot to unmute. That's because I'm trying to do so much. Try to do the questions and everything. I apologise. What I was saying was thank you very much, Deadpool Talks, for the donation. I really appreciate it, and we appreciate it. You don't have to do that, guys. Honestly, you want to ask a question, we'll pick it up and we'll answer it at the end. Yes, good evening, lads. What happens if us and Leeds both get in Europe? Is there any issues that have been sorted already? I don't see it being an issue in the slightest. Leeds are quite a wee bit away from that potentially happening. If it does happen quick, there's multiple occasions. I think they've let Manchester City and Girona play in the Champions League together and things like that. I really don't see it being an issue. In my opinion, that's not an issue to me, Kenny.
No, I don't think it is an issue. I remember a few years ago the two Red Bull clubs played each other. I know, is it Man United and Nice? Is it Nice have a thing? And they played in the same tournament this year. I might be wrong with Nice. I know they have a connection to a French club. There's been loads of examples of this. The one thing I would say is that I did note that I seen a few weeks ago there when Nottingham Forest looked as if they were perhaps going to hit Champions League, that there was talk of their owner having to resign from their board because Olympiacos have already qualified for the Champions League, I believe, and you can't have the same chairman or something like that. So he had to put something in place. But that won't be an issue for us because it'll be a completely separate board and, two separate entities effectively, where this guy does own those two clubs, himself. So, no, I don't see it being an issue at all. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm an expert in this, but I have seen countless examples over the last 10, 15 years since all these regulations were put in place that it's not an issue. There's ways of working around it. And to be honest, I don't see Leeds qualifying for Europe first couple of years anyway, 2 or 3 years. Such a hard league to stay in, never mind go and finish top 6, top 7, top 8 in it. So I think it'll be an issue for us over the next few years, not at all. And by the time Leeds, if they do progress and get into Europe, then hopefully we're in the Champions League and they're in the Europa League, Stevie, and it doesn't make a blind bit of difference to us anyway. So, because I can't see them being a Champions League club anytime soon, put it that way.
No, I don't see it being an issue, Kenny. Right, let's move on. Topic of conversation. There's been a lot said in the last couple of days about the manager's position. There is a lot of speculation. There's a lot of things being said, and it's not something that I want to be drawn into too much. I do not want people thinking that Stevie's saying Stevie's in the know or Stevie's in the. I don't want to do that. I just want to discuss what's happened, maybe give you one or two facts, and then go from there. Kenny, in the last couple of days, Steven Gerrard has once again become hot topic. Now, we went from Gerrard to Marco Rose to Danny Rule to Ancelotti Jr., back to Gerrard, to Ancelotti Jr., to Gerrard in quick succession as being favourites. I think it's quite clear that there's a lot of things getting flung about and hoping that it sticks. There was discussions that Steven Gerrard was apparently in Glasgow the last couple of days. That's not how I understand it. He posted on Instagram he seemed to be still in Bahrain. There's a lot of talk in Spain from Ancelotti's camp that he has got the job, and the sooner Russell Martin fucks off to Leicester and everybody breathes a sigh of relief, the better. No, I'm joking. Don't mean that seriously. But
I'm not.
It seems to be there's a lot being said about Steven Gerrard in the last couple of days. I'm not sure that anybody really knows what's going on at all. I think there's a lot of stuff being flung around trying to stick. What I do know is Rangers were interviewing yesterday for the chief commercial officer position. So Patrick Stewart and the people at Ibrox were busy with that yesterday. Talk of Steven Gerrard being at Ibrox when there's games on the pitch, there's a lot going on, just doesn't really seem to be true to me. So I think people are getting awfully excited about things that are being said and done. I also think we have the official line for the club is that the club have said that we can say this as well officially, that there's no leading candidate. They're still interviewing. They have not made a decision yet, and there'll be no decision expected before the end of the week. And they're quite clever about how they word that when they say expected. Well, we didn't expect to do it, but we did it anyway. So I always tend to leave that as much as possible. But I believe it will be into next week. I don't believe it will run beyond next week. I believe next week we'll find out who our manager is. And that leaves the way for the following weeks for the takeover to be completed and things like that. What do you make of the last couple of days, Kenny, in terms of coverage and Steven Gerrard becoming almost red-hot favourite? There was a Jibril Cisse, he can't come to my dinner and all that next Tuesday. And, you know, a lot of it all does add up. But do you have any opinion on where this is and your thoughts overall on it?
My thoughts overall, I was getting inundated with WhatsApps, forwarded many times. Garbage yesterday. I was getting lots of different guys that I know messaging me. And it's funny when you're on Four Lads like this, the amount of people that want to talk to you all of a sudden about, oh, I'm hearing this, any truth in that? Listen, we don't know. So you know, I would actually go as far to say that there's a number of things. First of all, you said about the game in the pitch. I think it was one of our sponsors, the game at Ibrox yesterday, wasn't it? I mean, there was nothing happening at Ibrox yesterday. We were getting told, I was getting told that they were all up at Cameron House, as you probably were too, with Jermaine Defoe was there as well, and you're like, they're not there. Steven Gerrard is here. Not as far as we're aware. Steven Gerrard is in Bahrain, and he's not in Glasgow at all. How do I feel about it, Stevie? My personal take is that I'm looking at it in quite a positive way, because if you look at Rangers over the last few years, everything that we try and do is out in the open really, really quickly. Now, everything that's happening, whether it's Davide Ancelotti or Steven Gerrard, whoever it may be, everything's probably coming from their side. Nothing's coming from Rangers' side at all, which shows that there's very few leaks coming out, that it's being kept in-house. And if you're being... I'm getting a wee bit fed up, as I say. You're getting these messages, and it's a guy on, you know, follow or Rangers Media or any other platform, and it's no harm with these platforms. It's just guys that are on these giving it, I'll do this and I'll delete my account. I'll bet you £1,000. Nobody know. There's probably a handful of people that know who it's going to be, Stevie. And I genuinely mean that, because bar Patrick Stewart, Greta Steinson, Kevin Felwell, I can't see who else would know, because, you know, you're as close to the club as anybody I know. Chris Jack is closer to certain things than anybody else I know, and you guys don't know. So I don't understand why people sitting on follow or turning around and telling everybody you can put your mortgage on it, it's going to be something.
Kerry, I quite like not knowing, because I'm a supporter, so there's that excitement for me as well, and where are we going to go with it, who are we going to get. So I like that, and I also like the fact that I can sit and I'm not worried about, because I've went all out and said it's a certain person coming to the club or whatever, because these things change so much. I know myself just from trying to, you know, report on players that are signing, how quickly that changes. So I understand everybody's want to be kept in the loop and things like that, but I'm just happy to let it play out. Honestly, I'm really relaxed about it. If it's Ancelotti Jr., for example, then I can see the attraction. There's a romantic side to that, which you can talk up and you can do that. If it's Steven Gerrard, then there's context there that's positive as well, which we've went through. He did win the league. He went, I think, one defeat in 51 games, 7 undefeated in the Old Firm. He built a team that went to a European final, etc. So, and there's the downside to Ancelotti. He's never managed before. He's a coach, etc. There's the downside to Steven Gerrard, where he's really done poorly since he left. But at least there's an excitement to it, which I like. And we wanted excitement in the next. We wanted this club to get a shot in the arm. We said it needed an adrenaline shot. We said that we needed something to cling on to, because it couldn't continue the way it was. And the board had run out of drive. There was no energy anymore. I need ambition. I need guys to believe that Rangers can be as good as we think they can be again. And I need that within the club, and I hope that these guys that are coming in are going to bring that. I think that Kevin Thelwell, etc., will bring that. So that's the excitement for me. It's a new adrenaline push. It's waiting to see who's coming in. It's waiting to see what signings are coming. That's exciting for me. So I'm quite relaxed in it. I don't have a preferred choice myself, really. And people say, you're sitting in the... I really don't. I'm happy to just let this play out and see where it comes. The heart, says Steven Gerrard because he's been before, but the head thinks Ancelotti could be really exciting because it's new and he's a new coach, and what links would he have to Real Madrid? So, if we're talking about them too, and by the way, it could be somebody completely left field that we don't know, that's not in the... We just don't know. But because they're in the press, we can discuss them. But for me, I'm happy to let this play out and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I see the benefits in both, weirdly. I think Gerrard, because he knows the league, because he's been here before, he knows the football club, he knows the background, the staff at the training centre, he knows the staff at Ibrox. I think that's as a transitional period there, I think that's okay. I have no issue with that. I've also heard the kind of negatives that he's only a coach in Ancelotti, and he's only got the job because he's who his dad is. And I've seen a wonderful retort to that where a guy actually turned around and said, I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it could have been Andy Halliday or something like that somebody told me about, but he said, well, if it was just because of his dad, do you think somebody like Luka Modric or Jude Bellingham would just stand there and take it because it's his... They just walk right past him, up the stairs and say, get that guy out of here, he's not good enough. And that's the kind of level of player that you're dealing with. So the notion that Ancelotti wouldn't be good enough is a risk, yeah, obviously, because he's coming to a foreign country and a new job, and it's a job that he's not done before. But when you've got the experience of Bayern Munich, PSG, Napoli, Everton, and Real Madrid, I don't believe for a minute that you're wet behind the ears. I think he's very, very much capable of taking that step up. Whether it's going to be a success for us, we just don't know, Stevie. That's what I'd say. Every manager's a risk. And the other thing that I would say about Steven Gerrard, even though he's a safe pair of hands to a certain degree, what I would say about Steven Gerrard is that he was afforded, the 3 seasons the last time. I'm not quite convinced that he would be afforded that kind of time at all now. And I think that's where I would be slightly apprehensive for the guy himself, for Gerrard himself, because he would need to hit the ground running. Any manager's going to hit the ground running, don't get me wrong. But for Steven Gerrard himself, I think he wouldn't get, as I say, the patience that he got previously, and that's where I'm at with the two of them. And yeah, you were right about Russell Martin. He can do one. Do not want that guy anywhere near.
Question from, or kind of statement from Joe Montana, more or less. Current board won't be making any decisions without the full consent of incoming buyers. Rangers board at present, as in Douglas Park, etc., are not running Rangers Football Club. Patrick Stewart is the man in charge, backed by Kevin Thelwell, who is doing work, but will obviously join once his Everton contract runs out. He's the man making all the decisions. Sean Jefferson currently running commercial until his replacement's found as well. But Patrick Stewart, and he's not doing things. He told us that at the fans forum. They are not making decisions and they are not making appointments without running it by the people that are coming in. Now, nobody will come out and tell you that Andrew Kavanagh and the 49ers consortium and the people that are behind this takeover are calling the shots already, but it's pretty obvious what's going on with regards to who's making these decisions and where we're going. So I don't have any issues with that in the slightest with the current board. I think, Kenny, we'll go to some questions, get some, if members have any comments or questions to get them in, please do. We'll bring as many as are up. But I am going to highlight this again. Bluebells are blue. Our very, very good friend. The man's honestly a machine. Just helping all the time. We really appreciate that. Has gifted 10 Four Lads of the Dream memberships. Absolutely unbelievable. I think that would take us well over 300, which is incredible. I have a dream of getting that high enough where I could just do that full time, quit my current career, which I've done for nearly 20 years, and just do this full time, go to all the games, getting all the coverage. I would love to do that. That's a dream of mine, Kenny. But the support we have on the channel, mate, is incredible.
Bluebells are blue. It's just he's the OG, isn't he? It's unbelievable. And thank you very much again. Every single week he's on at this, and he's fantastic. And the appreciation I have for him is just unbelievable. And thank you very much. And look, to everybody that's signed up, it's amazing, isn't it? It is genuinely taking us aback by how quickly it's grown, and you get very humbled by it. I is the way I put it the other night, Stevie. It's very humbling when you see guys coming on and doing stuff like what Bluebells or Blues doing there, and appreciating, you know, the shows that we're putting on, the pods that we're sticking up, and as I say, just the man's the OG for me, man. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. If you want to grab one, please click on the little button up top. It says 10 gifts. You can get one. If you want to sign up, if you don't get one in time, because these do go really quickly, you can sign up. I think it's any laptop, any iPad, etc. But the guys were saying they could do it on their phone as well. You just go into YouTube. You have to be signed into your account, and you go into the Four Lads of Dream page on YouTube, and you simply just press subscribe. And you can also, there's one next to it to become a member. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because you're helping us get towards 7,000, which is an amazing feat for us. Natalie asks, has there been any update on the takeover? Is it still looking at mid-June? Yeah, there is no update. You will not get a public update until it's done. That's the position we're in. I don't think you will see anything from them. You might start seeing things change hand with regards to shares and stuff, but with regards to an update, I don't think there's any update coming. I think, look, I'm quite comfortable with that as well. I know that I've said it already with the manager's thing, but I'm quite relaxed. I think end of the month, start to mid of June is when we'll start to be hearing these things. So the manager, I think, will come in, and then we'll start getting an update on that. I don't have any worry about that, Kenny. It's just, I think it would take a lot now for this to not happen, and I don't think there's any way that can happen now. When you're this far into it, you're talking about the closing stages of a major deal. I don't think there's any way that's not happening. And Christ, Kenny, they've watched us for the last 3-4 months. In fact, they've been watching us from November last year, and they're still here. So I don't think there's any danger that will be that anything bad will happen. I think it's just now a matter of time. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think it's just the legal side of it, mate. I think it's all it is. Just waiting for the T's to be crossed and the I's to be dotted, or whatever the saying is. I think it is that simple, and it'll come. And put it this way, I don't think we would be talking to Davide Ancelotti or Steven Gerrard, either of them at all, if the current board were dealing with things. I think one would be out with their elms and the other one wouldn't go near it anyway. So it's happening. It's just a case of when the paperwork is officially tidied up and dealt with. And I think I've mentioned this before, mate, but I think when you actually consider, I think somebody had actually mentioned to me that I think there was 7 different countries that the actual stuff was getting dealt with, and the situation is different in every single country. The law is slightly different in every single country, as far as I'm aware, in terms of buying shares and stuff like that off of people. So it takes a little bit of time for all that kind of stuff to just process, and we'll get there. And I don't know about you, but I am really looking forward to it. I can't wait for the day that it happens and we start to get a little bit of information about what is the plans for the future. That's the way I would put that. That what do they have in store for us? Because I'm quite excited to see where we're going to go.
Yeah, I would. Do you know what? I would really like it if we heard from them when they first come in, and then silence, and we actually seen it more than we hear from. I don't need to hear from them every week. I really don't. What I want to see is new appointments. I want the academy guys coming in. I want the head of recruitment coming in. I want a new medical staff. See, when all these things start coming together, I'll feel within myself that we're going in the right direction. Football side of it, I'll take care of itself. So brings us to our next question. Curry asks, our good friend Curry, mate. Okay, Stevie, is there any players you worry about if they're still here next season and getting regularly played? All of them.
A leading question, that isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lead. I know what he wants me to say. He wants me to talk about the captain. I've been talking about the captain for a very long time. Listen, Nico Raskin and Hamza Egaman are our star players. That is, in my opinion. The rest of the squad, you want to keep both of them. You want Nico on a new contract. You want Nico to get the armband. You want everything to be built around Nico. That's just my honest opinion. I think that Barry has done a tremendous job for Nico. And I'm hoping that those numbers and goals and things he was getting, all because of a sudden Nico was like our biggest threat from set pieces and stuff. So they two are the ones you want. See anybody else, and this is the honest truth, I can handle anybody else leaving this football club. There is some that are overdue. There's some players in there that we might not rate that a new manager will get a turnout of, and that's the truth. I think that it's difficult to write anyone off because, look, when it comes to a bigger conversation about Niels Coppin and the work he done last summer and things like that, I don't think Robin Propper would survive, for example. I think Robin Propper will go back to Holland this summer. However, I think that Oscar Cortez and Nadim Bayrami are going to be here. Unless you can get a buyer for Bayrami, you're not going to get a buyer for Cortez. So he's just here. But what about a good pre-season and a manager that can actually, put together a system that they might thrive in? Now, it's asking a lot, but you never know how things can change for players really quickly. Curry, what Curry wants me really to answer is the James Tavernier situation. James Tavernier, for me, has been a remarkable servant for Rangers Football Club. I don't think he gets the credit at times for individual performances because of the lack of success, and that ultimately is what it's all about. Numbers-wise, performance-wise, etc., James Tavernier has been incredible at times. In the last couple of years, he's began to really go down, and I think this year we've seen him drop again levels. I think it's the right time for James Tavernier. That's my only word on it. But I don't see him leaving. That's a God's honest truth. I do not see James Tavernier leaving. Kenny, I'm going to reverse that. Mark really wants you, Curry really wants you to answer on Tavernier. But do you have any kind of to answer that question yourself? Any worries about who's really going to be here and stuff like that next season?
No. Yes and no. Difficult question, because if you're being honest, right, you would say that any manager wants a squad of 26, 27 players. That's what you're looking at. And you can't just have 26 in, 26 out, Stevie. It just isn't going to happen. So with that, you would be looking at, if you're getting 12 in, 12 out, which might be realistic, at least half of, I know there's a number that are not going to be there, just out of contract and the loans have gone, but you're looking at still 12 players in this squad probably still being there. And you've got to be realistic and say that that's probably the truth of it, that there'll be well into double figures that will still be there. And you're absolutely right about, a new manager coming in and getting a tune out of certain players and improving players and seeing something in a player that perhaps previous managers haven't. And that to me is, how would you put this? Right, it's one of those things that every time you get a change of manager, something surprises you about that. And I agree with you on the captain. I do think it's probably time that he should go. And I know that was it Josh Windass had said something about it today or yesterday. I mean, gee whiz, and he's not the brightest spark, is he, that lad? But at the same time, look, it's one of them that, with a bright new start, a supposed bright new start, you do really have to look at James Tavernier and say that this is the end of an era and the start of a new one. And you would be looking at that, and if you're being realistic, you would probably want James Tavernier to go and move on with all their best wishes and thank him for his service, and away you go and pick up, double your wages in Saudi or something like that, wouldn't you? But we'll wait and see.
I think the only other big question, Kerry, is Cyril Dessers, and for me, it's only the age thing that goes against him. Any striker that scored the amount of goals that he does in the team that we've got, you'd be looking at saying, right, maybe he can do better in a better team. He's missed quite a lot of chances, but also there's an argument that he's the only one taking chances and creating them or getting in the positions or whatever else. Listen, I'm not his biggest fan, because at times he frustrates the life out of me. However, here's why I'd sell him. He's 31 next birthday, and he's got a monetary value that could be quite high and quite decent for us. If Kevin Thelwell is as good as we hope, he's getting £5 million for Cyril Dessers, because there's a massive amount of interest in him, especially from Europe. So if that's an added on kind of question to Curry's, then that would be the only one. A few people asking, FFP is set 70% of total revenue precedes 3 years, so we're looking at potentially 30 million plus to spend. Do you think that will be enough? Yes. So here's why. Enough though for what is an interesting thing. Listen, I think, and people might not like this, Celtic have got an excellent side. They've got an excellent squad, and they're probably going to go and spend. But they're in a difficult position, because you see that to improve their team, they have to spend 10, 15 million pound on guys like Engels, and that takes a while for these guys to settle in. I don't think Engels is as good as maybe the boy that went to Brighton, for example, Matt O'Reilly. So that's a difficult thing for them. You see, they overpay for Adam Mida, I think, by quite a margin. So, although still a good striker to have. For us, I think we need to just put Celtic over there and stop trying to catch them in one summer, because I don't think it's possible. Every summer that we throw far too much money at it without really a plan. And here's what I would like to see them do, and it might not be popular. I would rather, Kenny, if we were going to spend money, I would rather get 4 really quality players in certain positions that you know that you're not going to have to correct in the summer. So instead of buying 8 players at £3-4 million, which might not work because some of them will be hit and misses in there, I would rather we focused on getting guys that are maybe, if we can, I don't know if it is, but just proper quality players that we can build a spine of the team, because you'll be able to fit guys around them. And what that should do is make us better than everybody else in the league and be able to bring our standards up. If we're better than everybody else at the league, that's where I think we have to be first before we worry about what's happening over the road. Because if you're better than everybody else, it automatically will take you up there anyway. And Old Firm games, even as we've seen with this team that we have now, are always close encounters, and there have been recently. So that's my thoughts on it. So could 30 million be enough? Yes, but it needs to be bloody spent well. We cannot waste money. If we're signing guys, excuse me, for 4, 5, 6, 7 million even, don't know how realistic that is. We'll need to wait and see. But if we're purchasing guys like that, they need to be spot on. They need to be starters. They need to be solid guys. You get 50 games out of a season. And I'm looking to Goldson era when he was brought in, that kind of performance. We need those levels of availability, sturdiness, and all that for our game. But for £30 million, I think it's possible. If our budget for the summer is 30 million, I'll be overjoyed.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say about maybe 4 players at £7.5 million, we need more than that, Steve, as you well know, and I know exactly what you're saying. The thing that I would look at is that we need another goalkeeper? Yeah, probably if Jack Butland goes. We need 2 centre halves. We need a proper physical, big, strong, commanding number 6. Do we need another striker? Yes, we probably do. Do we need a right winger and a left winger? Yeah, we do. So I understand what you're saying. I think you need to prioritise certain positions, try and get the situation where you've got your spine on your side that is capable of playing that 50 games a season. But what I would be looking at is, although it says 30 million, I think you can top that up if we can get a lot of sales. And that's where I would be looking at the likes of the 2 boys that were at Birmingham, Dowell and Davis, Cyril Dessers you've mentioned. Perhaps there could be interest in somebody like Mo Diamandi. There could be interest in Robin Proper, Jack Butland. And you could get quite a lot of money racked up. And that would allow you perhaps to go for 7 or 8 of these players added to guys that are out of contract, and all of a sudden you've got a squad of players that, as long as Kevin Thelwell and the new manager do the job right, it's tailor-made for our league, but can also go into the European football that we're going to be playing and compete in that as well. But we need to build a team that can win week in, week out domestically. That's what we need to find. And that, for me, shouldn't come as this is where I'm kind of agreeing with you, right? Where it shouldn't come as expensive as people think.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, Steven Gerrard spent that in the course of 3 summers to be able to take us to where he took us. DP does make the point we are better than everybody else in the league. I get what I was trying to say is I think we dropped points in 12, 13 games this year, something ridiculous in the league. That can't happen between draws and defeats. That can't happen again. So my point is, be consistently better. I should have maybe worded that. So much better, you're not dropping the same level of points.
The only team that didn't take points off Philip Clement was St Johnstone, if I remember right. And he was only here a year. So think about it that in that way, that you need to beat these teams every time you play them. If you get, and it's not going to happen absolutely every time, but you should be beating them 9 times out of 10. And we have not been capable of doing that of late. And I think that's where you're coming from, isn't it? It's just to beat them all the time.
Right, quick last question, Kenny, because I really want to go and watch Livy and Ross County, as sad as that might be. I love these games. So it's about to start. Stevie, what will happen to Shirai and Cobham when new owners come in? Listen, I think when new owners come in and people start looking about what's been happening behind the scenes, etc., I think it's open house on anyone. So I don't think anyone's safe, and it will just need to wait and see. I think, Paul, that's the easiest way to look at it. So 16 games we drop points in the league. Thank you, Curry. That's my point. That can't happen. If we want to be serious about where we're ending up and not 20 points behind and all this nonsense at times like we were, then we cannot drop points in 16 games. So my point about being better than everybody else was, what I meant was consistently picking up results and everything else, and I don't think we are. So yeah, listen, unbelievable. There's over 3,000 watching this. Unbelievable amount of questions. I'd love to answer them all, but I really do want to go and watch the football and chill out. It's my night off, so I want to go and chill and do that. I think we've had 15 new members on this show alone. We really appreciate your support. If you want to subscribe, please do on YouTube. That really helps us. As I said, we're fast heading towards, I think, 7,000, which is unbelievable. We really appreciate the support. Kenny, another great show. Thank you, mate, for joining us.
No, thanks, mate. Enjoyed that. And thanks to everybody for watching and the new members. It's just, as I said, it's blown us away, isn't it? So thanks for having me on, mate. Enjoyed that.
This chat is getting rapid, Stevie. Keeping up. No, I really tried my best. So hopefully, I'm sorry if I missed your questions or missed your comments and things. I'm doing my best. So everybody, I hope you have a really, really good night. Thanks again to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyde Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning. We will once again be going with those sponsors next year, which means we'll be advertising at Ibrox, putting money back into the club. We will be sponsoring Catherine Hill from the women's team as well. The ultimate dream is to get a male player, to get a player for the men's team as well, which costs quite a few thousand. But if we keep getting the levels of support we are, then that's the kind of thing we'll aim for and putting our money back into Rangers. That's the plan. And that's what we really want to do. So yeah, thank you to everyone. Thank you to our members. Unbelievable support. Thanks for all the comments tonight. I really appreciate everybody watching. Hopefully people enjoy it. And we really appreciate it. We'll be back, I think, over the course of the weekend at some point, starting next week. There's bound to be news or something to be discussed at some point. It's coming thick and fast. So really appreciate that as well. Just before we go, good luck to the women on Sunday in the Scottish Cup final. They play Glasgow City. Hammer below at the weekend there. It was a really, really dire game. Let's hope they can do better there and give us something to smile about for the end of the season, that's for sure. But on that note, thank you everybody for joining us. Have a really great evening. I'm off to watch Livy and Ross County. I hope it's a decent game. It should have kicked off. Robbie Fraser starting, Kenny, is he? At left back for...
Not sure, mate. I haven't looked. It's 2 minutes in, but I haven't even looked at it, so I don't know who's playing for who.
Well, hopefully he is. He's doing
a good
job.
So.
He's doing a good job down there anyway. But anyway, folks, good night. Thanks for joining us. And we'll be back whenever news breaks. We'll try and get on, Kenny and I, and talk to you about it. But thanks everybody that's watched. Thanks all our members. Thanks to our sponsors. Have a good night. See you all.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.